Have you ever prayed and heaven didn't answer? Have you ever cried and your tears seemed to hit the floor, not the throne? Have you ever knocked and it felt like the door was locked, bolted, sealed shut? Oh, I came to talk to some real people today, because there are seasons, hear me, when God is silent, and silence can shake you. Silence can make you question, Lord, do you hear me? Do you see me? Do you care? But don't you confuse his silence with his absence. Don't you mistake his delay for his denial. Sometimes the teacher is silent during the test, not because he left you, but because he's watching to see if you'll trust him when you can't trace him. This message, this word, is for every soul that's been wrestling in the midnight hour, for every believer who's standing in the dark but still holding on. I want to preach about when God is silent, trusting him when you don't understand. Have you ever sat in a room and heard nothing but the sound of your own heartbeat and the whisper of your own doubts? Have you ever prayed until your knees grew weary, your throat grew dry, and your tears left puddles on the pillow, but heaven remained still, unmoved, and quiet? That is the silence of God. Silence is not absence, but it feels like abandonment. Silence is not rejection, but it tastes like rejection. When you are in the silence of God, you begin to wrestle with questions that cut deep into your soul. Lord, do you hear me? Lord, do you see me? Lord, if you love me, why won't you answer me? It is not that you stop believing. It is that the silence challenges what you believe. Silence confronts the roots of your faith, because faith must grow in soil where answers are absent. If faith only functioned in clarity, it would not be faith. Faith was designed to survive in the dark, and yet silence does not mean he has left you. Silence is part of his language. Silence is God's way of saying, can you trust me when you can't hear me? We know how to praise him when the choir is singing, when the music is loud, when testimonies are flowing, when blessings are obvious. But can you praise him when all you have is silence? Can you worship when the sound has stopped and the noise of encouragement is gone? Silence asks a question that words cannot. Silence pulls you into intimacy. It is in the silence that God measures whether your faith is built on feelings or on foundation. And if your foundation is sure, you will discover that even in silence, he is speaking. His silence teaches patience. His silence teaches perseverance. His silence breaks the addiction to instant gratification. His silence forces you to grow roots deeper than your emotions. God's silence is not punishment. It is preparation. He is preparing you for dimensions of his presence that cannot be discovered through noise. And this is why trust becomes the lifeline in silence. Trust is not passive. Trust is active. Trust is waking up every morning when prayers seem unanswered and still saying, this is the day the Lord has made. Trust is paying the bills when resources are short and saying, Jehovah Jireh will provide. Trust is walking into a doctor's office with a report that breaks your heart and saying, whose report will I believe? I will believe the report of the Lord. Trust is choosing to see what God has said, not what life is showing you. Trust is not built in seasons of clarity. Trust is forged in the fire of confusion. You do not learn to trust when you can track him. You learn to trust when you cannot trace him. Trust is not birthed in the comfort of answers. Trust is born in the agony of questions. When Abraham left his father's house, he had no map, no GPS, no address, only a word from God. Go to the place I will show you. That was trust. Trust is stepping when the direction is unclear. Trust is giving when the outcome is uncertain. Trust is standing still when everything in you wants to run. Some of you are in a season where you cannot make sense of what God is doing. You prayed and the door closed. You fasted and the healing did not come. You sowed and the harvest has not yet appeared. But God said, trust me. Trust is the bridge between what you don't understand and what God has promised. And if you can walk across that bridge, you will step into a revelation of His presence. Presence is what makes silence bearable. Presence is what makes trust possible. The beauty of God is that He can be silent and still be present. He can be invisible to your eyes, but undeniable to your spirit. You may not hear His voice, but you can feel His hand. You may not receive His explanation, but you can sense His embrace. Presence is not about God performing for you. It is about God being with you. And when you become aware of His presence, silence loses its power to intimidate you. Have you ever been in a storm and the winds were raging, the waves were crashing, but then someone you trusted stepped into the boat and suddenly your fear subsided? That is the presence of God. The storm may still rage, the silence may still stretch, but His presence says, peace, be still. His presence says, I will never leave you nor forsake you. His presence says, even though you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I am with you. Presence changes the atmosphere without changing the circumstances. His presence strengthens you to endure what you thought would break you. But to see the value of His presence, you must understand the reality of testing. Silence is often a test, not a test to make you fail, but a test to prove what you have learned. Every teacher stops speaking during the exam. It is not because the teacher is absent. It is because the teacher is measuring what you know. When God is silent, it is often a test of your maturity. Can you stand still when He doesn't move? Can you worship when He doesn't work the way you expect? Can you love Him for who He is, not just for what He does? Testing is uncomfortable, but testing reveals what is in you. Israel wandered in the wilderness for 40 years because they failed the test of trust. They murmured, they complained, they doubted. But Jesus in the wilderness passed the test by declaring, it is written. The test is not about your environment. It is about your response. God is testing your response in silence. Will you respond in faith, or will you retreat in fear? Will you cling to His word, or will you collapse under the weight of unanswered prayers? Do not despise the testing, because testing produces testimony. Without the test, you would not have the story. Without the silence, you would not have the song. Without the wilderness, you would not have the witness. Testing refines you. Testing purges you. Testing strengthens you. Testing shifts you from superficial faith to sustaining faith. It is the test that proves you are ready for the next dimension. And when you pass the test of silence, you step into breakthrough. Breakthrough is what God has been preparing you for all along. Breakthrough is not just about the blessing, it is about the becoming. Breakthrough is when you realize the silence did not kill you, it made you stronger. Breakthrough is when you look back and say, If he hadn't been silent, I wouldn't have grown. If he hadn't delayed, I wouldn't have been ready. If he hadn't tested me, I wouldn't have trusted him the way I do now. Breakthrough is the reward of those who endure the silence without quitting. Breakthrough is the moment when what was hidden becomes revealed, when what was locked becomes open, when what was barren begins to birth. Breakthrough is the shifting of seasons, the lifting of burdens, the revealing of destiny. And yet, breakthrough does not come to those who faint in the silence. Breakthrough comes to those who hold on. Some of you are on the edge of your breakthrough, but the silence is trying to convince you to let go. The silence is trying to persuade you that God has forgotten you. But I came to tell you, don't quit in the quiet. Don't walk away in the waiting. Don't faint in the famine. Your breakthrough is closer than it feels. God is silent because he is working. God is silent because he is arranging. God is silent because he is aligning the pieces of your destiny. He is silent because he is testing whether you will trust him enough to wait. And if you wait on the Lord, he will renew your strength. If you wait, you will mount up with wings as eagles. If you wait, you will run and not be weary, walk and not faint. Silence, trust, presence, testing, breakthrough. These are not just words, they are stages of your journey. Silence will try to shake you. Trust will anchor you. Presence will comfort you. Testing will strengthen you. Breakthrough will reward you. And through it all, God is shaping you into who he called you to be. So, when God is silent, do not lose your song. When God is silent, do not lose your shout. When God is silent, lift up your head, square your shoulders, and declare, though he slay me, yet will I trust him. Because silence is not the end of the story. Silence is the womb of glory. Out of the silence comes the sound of resurrection. Out of the silence comes the roar of victory. Out of the silence comes the whisper that changes everything. Well done, my good and faithful servant. So when God is silent, don't you dare let the devil trick you into thinking he has abandoned you. Don't you let your emotions convince you that his silence means his absence. The silence is not a tomb, it's a womb. Something is forming in you. Something is growing in you. Something is about to be birthed through you. And if you can hold on through the silence, you will see the salvation of the Lord. Lift your head, child of God. Wipe your tears. Square your shoulders. His silence is not rejection, it's redirection. His silence is not denial, it's development. His silence is not punishment, it's preparation. And when the silence breaks, when heaven opens, when the word comes forth, you will look back over your life and say, it was good for me that I was afflicted. It was good for me that I had to wait. It was good for me that I had to trust him in the dark. Because the silence pushed you into a deeper faith, a stronger walk, and an unshakable confidence that God is who he says he is. So trust him. Even when you don't understand, trust him. Even when you can't hear him, trust him. Even when you can't trace him, trust him. Because he is still God. He is still faithful, and he is still with you. Through the silence, in the silence, and beyond the silence, until your breakthrough comes.